Hello students, welcome to ePathshala. My name is Arjinder Kaur and I work as an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science, Postgraduate Government College, Sector 11, Chandigarh. Through this module, we'll try and look at the economic policy of India and how it influences the foreign policy of our country. As Nehru once said, it is very important for us to understand economic policy of a country because economic policy of a country is further influencing in any country's foreign policy, and thus it becomes imperative for us to understand how these two policies work together. As an initiative and according to the new paradigm shift of the world as well, it becomes imperative for any country to initiate and to translate its economic strengths into the foreign policy and strategic global influence. Under this initiative, India has stopped taking in economic aids from various other countries. Also, for such a purpose and to strengthen its economic policy at the world stage, it becomes important for us to project India as a powerful economic country at the world stage, and thus Ministry of External Affairs is projecting India as a strong economy in front of the media, in front of business investors and think tanks. As a result, India is also trying to engage with its diaspora and take their initiatives in strengthening our relations with the foreign countries. Let us in this module discuss the economic policy of our country and how it is trying to influence the foreign policy of our country. Objectives. This module will apprise the readers about various dimensions of India's foreign economic policy. India's foreign economic policy is influenced by various internal and international factors. This module will emphasize on the issues of foreign economic aid received and granted by India and foreign trade of India with other countries. Role of India for the demand of new international economic order will also be analyzed in this module. The role of India in various international economic financial institutions like GATT, WTO, World Bank, IMF, etc. will also be examined in this module. Finally, important questions and suggested readings are also included in this module. India's economic foreign policy. Economic foreign policy of India can be studied under the following heads: determinants of India's economic foreign policy, foreign economic aid, foreign trade, demand for new international economic order, and role of India in international economic organizations. Determinants of India's economic foreign policy. These determinants can be classified into two categories: 1. Domestic determinants and 2. International determinants. Domestic determinants. Colonial legacy. India has been influenced at conceptual, behavioral and institutional levels by the policies of England for many years after the independence due to its dependency on England in case of trade and institutional policies. This process started to reduce after the decade of 1960, but still there exists a kind of intellectual dependency as a result of colonial legacy which reflects in India's policies towards developing countries. Nature of economic system. India has adopted a mixed economy. Consequently, it has been willing to establish its relations with both kinds of nations, capitalist and socialist, in the fields of trade, capital investment, joint ventures, etc. It has both public and private ownership of means of production. Compulsions of economic development of a developing country. India is a developing country with huge population, large size and numerous resources. Its economy is rural and traditional. India has to do various efforts to make its traditional economy modern. It needs economic, technical and industrial aid to change its traditional system. It has to conduct a foreign economic policy to remove all the hurdles coming in the way of a developing country for economic development. Nature and characteristics of foreign trade policy. All exports and import related activities are governed by the Foreign Trade Policy (FTP), which is mainly aimed at enhancing the country's exports and use trade expansions as an effective instrument of economic growth and employment generation. The Reserve Bank of India has simplified the rules for credit to exporters by which they can now get a long-term advance from banks for up to 10 years to service their contracts. This measure will help exporters get into new long-term contracts. It will also aid the overall export performance and help the rupee in the short to medium term. International determinants. India's place in world economy. India's shares in world economy is negligible. This share was 0.4% in 1980, 0.5% in 1985, 0.6% in 1990, again 0.6 in 1992 and 0.7 in 1998. However, this situation is improving gradually after the adoption of open economy in 1991. Yet, India has to realize its full potential as a leading global economy. India affects the world economy mainly in two ways. A. India has a status of an important possible exporter for world. India has the capability to export technique, machinery and computers, both hardware and software, along with other raw and finished material. And B. India is also a large consumer market. It falls on the second place after China among top 10 consumers in the world. Hence, India will play an important role in the world economy in the context of above two scenarios in the coming years. International economic environment. International economic environment always influences the foreign economic policy of a country. End of the Cold War led to the three important economic changes in the world: decreasing importance of political issues and increasing importance of economic issues, end of idealism and rise of realism, and liberalization, privatization and globalization of economy. India adopted the realistic approach and participated in post-Cold War economic institutions like WTO, SAFTA, ASEAN, etc. Hence, it may be said that India made certain changes in its foreign economic policy in accordance with internal economic environment. Capital investment and multinational companies. There was a great opposition to multinational companies in India before 1991. Even the laws like FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, were framed in India to stop the bad effect of multinational companies in India. But as a result of economic reforms of 1991, the situation turned opposite. A number of multinational companies started to show interest in the Indian market. There are certain disadvantages of having MNCs in a developing country like India, that is, competition to small-scale industries, increased pollution and environmental hazards, improper diffusion of profits and forex imbalance, slow decision making, and sometimes economic distress. Foreign economic aid. After World War II, developed economies have been providing $100 billions in terms of foreign aid to the developing world with a welfare motive. Even before the First World War, foreign aid was used as a profitable investment. However, it was only in the post-war period that the flow of foreign aid began in a planned way, when developed Western countries started contributing primarily for the development of infrastructure, alleviation of poverty, emergency relief, peacekeeping efforts, and socio-economic reconstruction programs of their war allies. Objectives of foreign aid. There are a number of objectives which aid can contribute to the process of economic growth. These may be following. Aid stimulates investment in both physical and human capital. Aid acts as a supplement to the scarce domestic resources and acts as a major source of foreign exchange earnings. Aid increases the capacity to import necessary capital goods and technology. Aid helps to raise the productivity of both capital and labor through technological transfers and also promotes indigenous technical change. Aid also brings other crucial resources for development such as managerial skills, organizational capability, research ideas and market access. It also helps the underdeveloped economies in filling three major gaps. A. Saying investment gap, B. Export-import gap, and C. Technological know-how gap. At the same time, huge amount of external assistance inflows may create threat for large amount of external debt burden in the long run to developing economies. Leading aid donors to India. In 2012, the United Kingdom disbursed $180 million in foreign aid to India, which was until recently the UK. Department for International Development's second largest bilateral program. During 2012, Asian Development Bank disbursed $726 million in lending to India, including $74.8 million to improve and upgrade roads in India's northeast states. In 2012, France committed $160 million in assistance to India, including $67 million for infrastructure and livelihood support in Assam state. Among its peer donors in India, the US Agency for International Development stands out for its emphasis on robust engagement with India as a strategic partner in global development rather than aid recipient. USAID has identified health, agriculture, and energy as priority sectors for its funding of innovative development interventions in India. The EU set aside 100 to 130 million euros of that amount for education assistance as well as 50 million euros for health assistance. Foreign trade. All exports and import related activities are governed by the foreign trade policy, which is mainly aimed at enhancing countries' exports and use trade expansion as an effective instrument of economic growth and employment generation. Features of India's foreign trade. India's foreign trade policy has the following features. India has negative or unfavorable trade. Its exports could not keep pace with its imports. Great diversity has been observed in India's export commodities during the last few years. India now exports over 7,500 commodities. Since 1991, India has emerged as a major exporter of computer software, and that too to some of the advanced countries like the USA and Japan. Now India has trade links with almost all the regions of the world. India exports its goods to as many as 190 countries and imports from 140 countries. Earlier, India used to import food grains and manufactured goods only, but now oil is the largest single commodity imported by India. Its other important commodities of import are iron, steel, fertilizers, edible oils, and paper. About 95% of India's foreign trade is done through sea routes. India has only 12 major ports along the coast of India, which handle about 90% overseas trade of India. Although India has about 16% of the world's population, its share in the world overseas trade is less than 1%. This shows the insignificant place of India in the world's overseas trade. Most of India's overseas trade is done in public sector by state agencies, and very little trade is done by individuals. Performance of India's foreign trade. India's merchandise exports reached a level of $251.14 billion during 2010-11, registering a growth of 40.49% as compared to a negative growth of 3.53% during the previous year. Cumulative value of imports during 2011-12 April-December was $350.94 billion as against $269.18 billion during the corresponding period of the previous year, registering a growth of 30.4% in dollar terms. Oil imports were valued at $105.6 billion during 2011-12 April-December, which was 40.39% higher than oil imports valued $75.2 billion in corresponding period of previous year. Demand for new international economic order. The demand for just and fair economic order was first made in 1973. It was later formally resolved by the 6th Special Session of United Nations General Assembly in 1974 to call for the establishment of new international economic order. The demand for a new international economic order is being made to correct the global economic imbalance and establish equality. NEO seeks more favorable conditions of trade for the developing countries. It is based on equity, sovereign equality, common interest, and cooperation among all states, irrespective of their social and economic systems, which shall correct inequalities and redress existing injustices, make it possible to eliminate the widening gap between the developed and the developing countries, and ensure steadily accelerating economic and social development and peace and justice for present and future generations. Objectives of NEO. 1. NEO aims at social justice among the trading countries of the world. 2. It seeks restructuring of existing institutions and forming new organizations to regulate the flow of trade, technology, capital, funds in the common interest of the world's global economy and due benefits in favor of the LDCs. 3. It has the spirit of a world without borders. 4. It suggests more equitable allocation of world's resources through increased flow of aid from the rich nations to the poor countries. 5. It seeks to overcome world's mass misery and alarming disparities between the living conditions of the rich and poor in the world as large. 6. It aims to provide poor nations increased participation and have their say in the decision-making process in international affairs. 7. It envisages the establishment of a new international currency, the implementation of SDR aid linkage, the increased stabilization of international floating exchange system, and the use of IMF funds as interest subsidy on loans to the poorest developing countries. India's role in demand for NEO. India has always been doing efforts for the need of NEO as a means of achieving socio-economic development and acquiring of proper rights through UN, NAM, summits of third world countries, Afro-Asian solidarity conferences, and other diplomatic methods. India's role for the demand of NEO can be assessed in the following points. 1. The then Foreign Minister of India, Swaran Singh, participated in the 6th UN Special Session in 1974 and suggested various provisions to address the needs of developing countries. He advocated for equal rights of all the nations to cast votes in IMF and other international financial institutions. He stressed on the need of foreign capital and provisions of financial and technical assistance for the developing countries. 2. The then Foreign Minister of India, Y.B. Chaman, participated in the 7th Special Session of UN General Assembly in 1975 and put forward certain suggestions to establish new international economic order. He said that there should be expansion and diversification of trade, improvement of productivity, and increase of export earnings of the developing nations. He advocated for the reduction of removal of tariff and non-tariff barriers affecting the exports of developing countries. 3. During a conference of UNCTAD-4 at Nairobi in 1976, India helped in improving the markets for international trade for the goods of developing countries. Under this program, the list of 10 goods was approved in which tea and jute were the main goods of India's interests. 4. The then Prime Minister of India, Morarji Desai, said on 11th June 1978 during a meeting of Commonwealth Club of California that the road to NEO may be rough, tortuous and long, but it must not be allowed to become a mirage. It is here that countries like the USA have a crucial role to play by giving the lead in the implementation of various decisions aimed at eradicating the poverty and want from the earth. 5. India has been active in NEO through the activities of GATT and WTO. India has been member of GATT since its execution on 1st January 1948. 9 rounds of talks have been completed since 1949. India reacted even on Dunkel proposals from the angle of developing countries, but ultimately WTO replaced the GATT under Uruguay rounds. Now India has to fight for the rights of developing countries under the provisions of WTO. 7 main summits were held under the authority of UNCTAD. These were Geneva 1964, New Delhi 1968, Santiago 1972, Nairobi 1976, Manila 1979, Paris 1981, and Geneva 1987. India individually and collectively played an important role during these summits for the interest of developing countries. Hence, it is clear that India and other developing countries have been doing sincere efforts for NEO since the decade of 1970, but nothing concrete could be achieved. During the Cold War period, India played an important role in this direction through various organizations and fronts. This situation became more complex after 1991. The overall situation is not hopeful for developing countries. At present, India is also not in a very strong position. Rather, it is involved in the programs of economic reforms under the pressure of World Bank and IMF. Role of India in international economic organizations. To know of India's foreign economic policy, it is essential to understand its role in international economic financial organizations. In this regard, India's role can be analyzed in the following organizations. 1. IBRD, World Bank, IDA. 2. IMF. 3. GATT. And 4. WTO. India and IBRD, World Bank, IDA. India is a member of 4 of the 5 constituents of the World Bank Group, that is, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development (IBRD), International Development Association (IDA), International Finance Corporation (IFC), and Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency (MIGA). India has been assessing funds from the World Bank, mainly through IBRD and IDA, for various development projects. India is one of the founder members of IBRD, IDA and IFC. World Bank assistance in India started from 1948 when a funding of agricultural machinery project was approved. The main sectors for which IBRD assistance of $3,049 million has been provided are roads and highways, energy, urban infrastructure including water and sanitation, rural credit, disaster management and the financial services sector. The total assistance extended by IDA by way of credits to India, for which agreements were signed, was $37,299.16 million as on 31 December 2010. During the period from 1st January 2011 to 31st December 2011, new commitments of $2,207.34 million were approved, taking that assistance to $39,506.5 million as on 31 December 2011. The major sectors of IDA assistance is provided are health, education, agriculture and poverty reduction sectors. India and IMF. International Monetary Fund is an administrative unit that is international in nature and whose objectives is to regulate and administer the financial system of the world. The IMF does this by observing the payments balances and exchange rates of the world. International Monetary Fund also offers technical and financial help to the member nations. Its head office is Washington, D.C., USA. India and the IMF have a positive relationship. The IMF has provided financial assistance to India, which has helped in boosting the country's economy. The IMF raised the country for it was able to avoid the Asian financial crisis in 1999 and was also able to maintain the average rate of growth of its economy. The Managing Director of International Monetary Fund, Rodrigo Di Retto, visited India in May 2005. In 2005, the IMF said that the budget of India is very positive for its points that the economy of country will grow at the rate of 6.7%. International Monetary Fund said that the reasons behind the economic growth of India are that the RBI has been able to control inflation and has also handled its monetary policies very skillfully. The IMF has suggested that India can become a financial superpower by bringing in more reforms in its economic policies that will increase its growth rate to 8%. India and GATT. GATT was established in 1947 in order to set up International Trade Organization (ITO), which was to regulate world trade. GATT was the result of an international conference held at Geneva in 1947 to consider a draft charter for the International Trade Organization (ITO). The US initiated negotiations with 22 other countries that led to commitments to regulate 45,000 tariff rates. Technically, GATT was viewed as an agreement under the provisions of US Reciprocal Trade Act of 1934 and hence did not require approval of Congress. It was considered a provisional agreement that would be replaced once the ITO became operational to take over its functions. So GATT began its provisional existence on January 1, 1948, when 23 contracting parties signed the agreement. However, US Congress refused in 1950 to ratify the treaty establishing the ITO. India participated in all the tariff negotiations conducted at its past conferences and has been a signatory to the GATT from the very beginning. The concessions granted and received by India cover 1/5 of our foreign trade. Among the articles on which India received tariff concessions from other countries are jute, raw, Hessian cloth, mica, coir goods, lac, cashew nuts, cardamoms, ginger, tea, castor oil, linseed oil, jute bags and sacks, tobacco unmanufactured and essential oils. India and WTO. India is a founder member of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade (GATT) 1947 and its successor, the World Trade Organization, which came into effect on 1st January 1995. after the conclusion of the Uruguay round of multilateral trade negotiations. India's participation in an increasingly rule-based system is the governance of international trade and is to ensure more stability and predictability, which ultimately would lead to more trade and prosperity for itself and the 149 other nations which now comprise the WTO. India also automatically avails of MFN, Most Favored Nation, and national treatment for its exports to all WTO members. Analyzing the present relationship with the promising economic growth of India, one can be sure that India is going to enjoy a very candid and bright relationship with WTO and associated member nations by 2025. But at the same time, there are some issues on which India has expressed certain reservations. These are: during the implementation of WTO agreements, India has experienced certain imbalances and inequalities in the WTO agreements. It is found that some developed countries have not fulfilled their obligations in letter and spirit of the WTO agreements, and many of the special and differential treatment clauses in favor of developing countries added in various WTO agreements have remained inoperational. Taking advantage of the exception clauses provided in the WTO, most industrialized countries are still enforcing various regulations on foreign producers and suppliers. Extending the scope of the investment regime in WTO beyond trade-related investment measures and general agreements on trade in services is not appropriate. A multilateral framework cannot guarantee an increase in FDI inflows, although it threatens to adversely affect the quality of the inflows. Let me conclude this module by arguing with the fact that for any country to have strong economic ties with other countries, it is important for us to first enforce our own economic policies with full force and with full seriousness. For such a purpose, India is trying to build its economic strengths by engaging itself with the economic institutions of the world like World Bank and IMF. Through these institutions, India is not only trying to strengthen its internal economic conditions, but is also trying to engage in the foreign trade with the other countries of the world. Not only foreign trade, but India is also trying to engage with the other countries of the world through free trade agreements as well. As such, it becomes very important for us to understand our own economic conditions and then articulate them and enforce them into the foreign policy of our country. Thus, India's engagement with the World Bank, IMF, and with other economic institutions become important and imperative to understand, and through this module we have learned that India's position is being strengthened through these institutions and India is emerging as an important economic country of the world. Thank you.